morning. Welcome to the Mason County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for February 23rd. Welcome. Appreciate you all on attendance here. We will start with our pledge of allegiance. We have the honor of having County Officer Emmanuel Carr here. Thank you so much. He said he wanted to come observe his government in action, and Mr. Carr will ship out to Japan tomorrow. Is that correct?
Yes, that's cool.
We'll ask that you please lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Godspeed in your travels, and thank you for your service to our country. Next item is the roll call.
Commissioner District 1, Randy Netherland.
I'm here.
Commissioner District 2, Tim Sheldon.
here.
Commissioner District 3, Terry Jeffries.
Here. Correspondence and organization of business. Would you please report the correspondence received by the county commission?
The North Mason Chamber sent a letter asking the board for support for the temporary park and ride in Belfair. Ken Van Buskirk sent an email regarding Sweetwater Creek. John Elwood sent a letter regarding alleged unpermitted activities on Elk Hill Road. And Sheriff Salisbury sent notification that he is relieving his staff from courthouse security and litter group program duties.
Thank you. Item 4.2, news release. Tammy Newton, our coordinator for housing and human services.
All right. Thank you and good evening. We have a media release here titled Mason County Selected for 100-Day Challenge to End Family Homelessness. Mason County was one of 3 counties selected by the Department of Commerce to participate in the 100-Day Challenge to End Family Homelessness. Strategies used to meet the goal of ending family homelessness may include allocating more resources to rapid rehousing, landlord relationship building, for shelter diversion, quickening access to permanent housing, progressive engagement of families, and improving connections to mainstream systems. Quote, "We were excited to be one of the 3 counties selected for this technical support," said Tammy Newton, Human Services Coordinator for Mason County Public Health and Human Services. "We know that there are opportunities for improvement, and it is exciting to work with a team that has a proven track record for helping counties gain new levels of success in strengthening their communities." Funding for technical assistance is provided through a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Department of Social and Health Services Economic Services Administration. This project is led by the Vulnerable Families Partnership, which includes Commerce, Department of Social and Health Services, the Governor's Office, and other state and regional partners. The other counties selected for the challenge were Cowlitz and Thurston County. Through similar efforts in Virginia and Connecticut, communities were able to reduce veteran homelessness, said Carrie Retland, Policy Advisor for the State of Washington Department of Commerce. Though no new funds will be awarded through Commerce, participating counties will receive technical assistance and significant support and the opportunity to collaborate with the other participating counties. Our 100-Day Challenge leadership team is diverse and includes members from Crossroads Housing, Community Lifeline, Turning Point, Community Action Council, Department of Social and Health Services, HOST, Housing Options for Students in Transition, Peninsula Community Credit Union, City of Shelton Police Department, Shelton School District, Concerned Citizens, and is coordinated by Mason County Public Health, said Newton. The community is enthusiastically embracing the challenge. Mason County, in partnership with the Housing Coalition, just completed the annual Homeless Point time count. Results of the count should be available from the Department of Commerce at the end of February. The Mason County Housing Coalition meets monthly. To learn more about how you can participate as a member of the Housing Coalition, or if you are interested in participating on the RFP review panel for 2016, please contact Tammy Newton, Homeless and Affordable Housing Coordinator, at 360-427-9670, extension 293.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, you read that awfully fast, but basically, a letter of intent resulted in us being one of 3 counties to be awarded the challenge. And what I'm most excited about is the technical assistance around how are we going to develop a coordinated entry. One door.
Yes.
No wrong door or one door.
Exactly.
Because with all the different services available to people, it gets confusing.
It
How
is.
do you access them?
Exactly. We're excited, and we have a great team of folks. So, yeah, this is good news for the county.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is there any other organizational business to come before this board?
There isn't.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 5. This is our open forum for citizen input, an opportunity for members of the public to address the commission on any items that are not on the agenda. If you would like to address the commission, please raise your hand and be recognized. Come to the podium, state your name, and address the commission on anything not on the agenda. Just to let you also know, our meetings are recorded and made available on our website as well as Mason Web TV. So you're also kind of addressing the community. So let's take this opportunity if you'd like. Is there anybody who'd like to address the commission? Sir.
Good evening.
He's got a problem.
Yes. My name is Kevin Schmelzlin. I recently organized now a few community litter cleanups here in the county, mostly within the city of Shelton, but we did one just off the 101 and City Center exit, which is county land, or at least not city land. And there's a lot of trash in Shelton and around Mason County. I think we've all seen this, but it's one of those things where it almost becomes part of the landscape when you see it enough times. And yeah, not for everyone, fortunately. And I won't get into the whole story, but I came across what was obviously a former homeless camp, an abandoned homeless camp, and I took a picture and then it kind of went viral from there. And we've had over 45 different individuals come out to help pick up trash. And this is exciting. We plan to keep this going every Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. We're going to be out there picking up trash. And honestly, the picking up of the litter and the trash, the broken glass, the needles, all that bad stuff, that's honestly the easy part. I mean, we need a lot of people, but we're out there doing it. We're making it happen. It's the getting rid of the litter that's the problem. And it can be pretty heavy. And so far, we've spent well over $200 from volunteers, paying for those dump fees. And so we're hoping that the county will be able to provide some support in doing those, taking care of those dump fees. But I see it as more than just this group going out and picking up the trash and then having a way to do it. I wonder, why is there so much trash on the ground to begin with? I think part of it is just it happens and it hasn't been picked up enough. But you go around, I mean, in Shelton, but throughout Mason County, and there's a lot of properties where just trash all over the place, and and it makes me wonder, why is this happening? Why is this the case that do people not know about how to properly get rid of their waste, or can they not afford it? So I'd love to speak with you further about how we can make litter removal and really trash removal at that point easier for all county citizens. I bought this 6-quart box last night at Walmart, and today on my lunch break went out and only picked up glass. This is only like 98% glass. And I don't know, am I allowed to walk up there to show you? It's full.
Yeah.
This was lunch today. I mean, I didn't eat it.
Yeah.
This is lunch break. So it's pretty bad. So, and this is one area, one small area picked up over an hour or so. So there's a very real problem. I mean, this is dangerous in addition to just ugly, right? So I do hope that the county recognizes that this is a problem, that we need to be able to take care of this problem, and we really do need the county to be involved with this. So I really appreciate all that you're able to provide for this effort, and I look forward to speaking with you more about this. Thank you. Okay.
Actually, we knew a little bit about you yesterday. You came up in a conversation, some stuff you want to do, and I think it's more than admirable. I'm okay with setting up a time on our agenda for our briefings. I have no problem with that. I'd like to invite him in.
Absolutely. I take it you work during the day, though.
I do, but I have a pretty flexible schedule, so I'd be happy to if I know what time it is, to work my schedule around that.
Okay.
We'll make it work.
We will have our staff get a hold of you for a convenient time.
Great, thank you.
I want to ask Kevin, I think did I see something in the journal that you had?
Yes, yeah, we were covering it in the journal on iFiber.
Was there an ad placed too?
The shopper
actually called me and offered to place an ad for one of our
I
cleanups.
saw an ad, but it didn't have a name to contact, so.
I talked to them on the phone, so I actually did not see that in person before
Yeah,
going
so
live.
if others would like to participate.
Absolutely, and I'll try to make that more available. And right now, the main way that people are finding out about this is through Facebook. But I am trying to put up physical flyers as well around local businesses and make sure that everyone does have the contact information so that they can.
Well, another question, do you separate so you could recycle that?
We try, and it's easier for your side of the road
Yeah.
trash than it is in these homeless camps because there's just so
Yeah,
much
yeah.
gross stuff, dangerous stuff. And we've had to decide, okay, it's all trash, but we try, I definitely personally try to separate glass from metal, from plastic, make sure that's all recyclable, but it's not always possible, unfortunately. But when it's taken care of before it becomes this litter, when you're just dealing with a glass bottle or a whole plastic bottle, or it makes it so much easier. So if we can take care of the problem, nip it at its bud, that's when we're going to see real change here, I think.
Which, two real quick things, just thoughts I had. I think it'd be great if our staff met with you too, because obviously they're professionals in this area. But a lot of trash, I believe, comes out of vehicles because it's unsecured. We have a lot of pickups. A lot of people just throw this stuff, bottles, whatever. They don't want to throw it on the ground. They throw it in the back, and then paper, other things, maybe the tailgate's down. A lot of it just goes out because they're driving.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people don't secure that. So
Yeah, and
it's one of the big issues of why we have so much trash on the roads.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons. I mean, I've seen people literally throw trash out their window, not even trying to get in the back there. But it's an everyone problem, and everyone caused problem, and I think everyone needs to be involved in the solution because, like you said, I mean, people have trash in the back and they'll just fly out because they're driving and the wind. Even if you put it in your trash can, I mean, the garbage when it's leaving on the truck, some. Not 100% of that does not stay in the truck, unfortunately. And then you have, I mean, so much of what I found is just cigarette butts on the ground. It's obvious that people are just throwing them on the ground. And I think everyone has contributed to this in one way or another. That's why I don't think it's about blaming anybody. It's just about let's take care of the problem. Let's figure out, and like you say, let's figure out the sources, right? These common sources, and how can we help with that as well. So I think the more we think about it, the more we focus on this, if it is a priority, which I hope it will be, I really think that we have a real avenue to fix this problem.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's spectacular that you're doing this. And I'm curious, we all see it, and we all, very few stand to do it. I got to know why. There's got to be a reason behind that.
Well, the reason I got started with this is I was walking with my dog. So I live near 7th and Park Street, and I was walking down the now abandoned old Simpson Company track, railroad track, and I would always see trash and glass, and like almost everybody, but fortunately not everybody, I would generally just kind of walk by, and maybe I'd pick up one or two pieces, but it wasn't a high priority of mine, even a month ago. And then my dog decided that she wanted to go off into this little area in the woods adjacent to the track, and that's where we came across just the huge mess I put up on Facebook, and that kind of went viral. So that was what initially inspired me to take some action, but it was the community response to it that really made me say, okay, this is going to be something that I prioritize in my life, every Saturday morning, and then whenever I have free minutes to spare, this is what I want to help with, because I've had so many people that used to live in Shelton or Mason County and moved out of it, or still live here and have contacted me and email or Facebook message and have said, I feel like Sheldon or Mason County is just getting worse every time I come back, and I really appreciate that somebody is willing to step up and take action. And this is more than just about litter to me. It's about making the city and the county a place where people want to live, where people want to work, where people want to raise a family. Because since I moved here 3 years ago, I've heard so many people just say bad things about Shelton or Mason County in general. Why would you I moved up from San Diego, California. You know, why would you move up to, you know, Mason County? Why would you move to Shelton? And I, like so many people I've spoken with, I see a lot of potential here. I see a lot of beauty as it currently exists. But you know, there's people are complaining for a reason. I think it, you know, instead of complaining, it's best to take action.
Well, very much appreciated. You know, quick little story, up in North Mason, there's a trestle, and everybody laughed like heck when one of our community members wanted to paint the trestle. They wanted to put murals on it. They laughed because every year the kids would go out there and paint the trestle. They put different stuff. And I remember the statement at the time was, well, if we do this, they probably won't do it. And everybody laughed at him. And I got to admit, I was driving through Belfair, and it came to my mind again as I passed it. I think it's been like 8 years or longer, and they still have not touched that trestle. So you doing this, maybe they won't touch or redo what they did.
I hope so.
Well done.
So Ken, you're my hero, thank you.
Yeah.
And,
Hopefully we can help you.
Because we have,
Thank you.
you know, the public potentially watching us, or will be watching. Could you tell us what's the name of the Facebook page?
Yes, thank you. Shelton to the top.
Shelton to the top.
Yeah,
And then you post where to meet each Saturday?
Yes, so what we're going to do is, well, every Saturday morning at 9:30, regardless of the weekend, we are having these cleanups somewhere in either the city of Shelton or outside of Shelton within Mason County. And we will post that on the Shelton to the Top Facebook page every Wednesday night.
Okay.
So we'll let people know where the upcoming location will be.
Okay. Well, I definitely think there's a role for the county to play in helping alleviate the cost of the dumping, and it's just kind of a function of how we get there.
Right.
And we'll get there, so
Okay.
you'll be contacted by staff.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate that. Anybody else that would like to address the commission?
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Tom Davis, 170 West Bushy Road. A fellow activist. I love it. I'm here obviously on an entirely different matter, and it's the third time I'm standing here, and I did distribute to you my proposal for an action item agenda, whether or not that's appropriate. I can only tell you, this is for notice for Substitute House Bill 1145. I hesitate to go through the whole rigmarole of the bill since I'm standing here 3 times, but suffice it to say I'm looking for 15 days notice when there's a dual legislative meeting held outside the county as per statute, House Bill 1145. As it currently stands, it's a minimum of 24 hours, and I think that's inappropriate. What I would like to just say is that I'd like whatever discussion we do or do not have around this particular issue to be around the ability of people to find their way to this meeting when it's outside, regularly scheduled meeting, when it's outside of the county. The 24 hours, as I said before, seems grossly inadequate. And when I looked at all the parameters for changing, for instance, if you're not going to meet on a regularly scheduled meeting, I think is on the 7th or 6th, you give 2 weeks notice. When there's a hearing, you give at least 2 weeks notice. This is the only time, other than a special meeting, that is 24-hour notice. And when the meeting is going to be held outside the county, and it's a meeting that pertains to the concerns of the people inside the county, and it's not an emergency meeting, and it's not a special meeting, then I think it's only adequate that you have a more available time. You give people available time so they can rearrange their schedule if they'd like to attend that meeting. To me, it seems like a no-brainer, quite frankly, and I guess I'm just a little bit irritated that I have to stand here. I have better things to do also than try to push this. I would have thought that the commissioners would have embraced this and would have noticed this, and then when it was called to their attention that this was inadequate timing for people to attend a meeting outside the county, they would have said, well, we'll take care of it on a local level, don't worry. But that didn't happen. Here's the third time I'm standing here and everyone's dug in their heels. And one of the reasons I went on KMAS and discussed this issue was because obviously I wasn't getting any traction here.
And I'm hoping we can change that, maybe change the attitude. And if that requires my changing my attitude, I'm more than willing to do that. But this is important to me. As you know, process, I'm a process wonk, and I admit that. And every time I've stood before you or dug in my own heels about a particular issue, it's been about process. I think I'm very passionate about the transparencies, the people's right to know, and the availability of time for those people to get to the meetings. It doesn't matter as much to me if they attend the meetings, but if you don't give them adequate time to attend the meetings, that matters tremendously to me. And I can't tell you how far I will go to make sure that this is amended. I have been in touch with the Attorney General, the Attorney General's office. I will be up in Olympia next legislative session to talk about it. As you know, Dan Griffey, I had a long conversation with Dan Griffey. He's just as adamant about it, it appears, that at least on the telephone, as I am. It's inadequate to give people 24 hours notice to move business outside the county for them to rearrange their schedules if they want to attend that meeting. It just doesn't make sense. So I kind of like to start with a clean slate, and I offer this. It's the action item agenda, if it is in fact an action item agenda, is the same language that was written that you already adopted, except for the 15 days instead of basically the special meeting circumstances, which is 24 hours. Now, I did approach Diane Zorin. I asked her to be on the agenda. It was in excess of 24 hours, and she advised me that the best chance I have and the most appropriate thing to do was to write it up, give it to you, and then come here and speak in the open public comment meeting. So I followed that advice, and that's why I'm standing here. With that said, I would like to see this acted on today, obviously. I'll wait to hear your comments. I intend to stand here until there's a resolution to this problem, and I feel justified in doing so, but I would very much I'd like to move on. I've got things to do, and I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
And so, without further ado, I leave it to your discretion.
Well, Tom, if I could, Madam Chair, I'll speak first. I think you have a solution looking for a problem. This is my 12th year as a county commissioner. I cannot think of, maybe there is, but I cannot think of another meeting, a meeting that we've ever had on our commission with another commission outside of the county or inside of the county. Except, I think we had a Board of Health meeting over in Thurston County one time, because the 3 commissioners serve as our Board of Health, and Thurston County. I'm pretty sure that was adequately noticed. There was people there. So I would suggest that, I know you don't like to give up on anything, and I'm kind of stubborn too, but why don't we work on some things that are really problems? I think if the 3 of us decided we were going to have a meeting in Grays Harbor County and we didn't give notice, and we went down there and made some decision or even had a meeting, I'd probably get thrown out of office. I wouldn't be very welcome back in the county, number one. Number two, I think if you're going to look for a solution, if you talk to Representative Griffey, why don't you start at the legislature and work through a bill like was worked through this last session that passed 49-0 and 98-0, and then work through that, and then that will affect all the counties. So you're asking us to take a belt and suspenders approach right here, right, that goes beyond what state law requires us to do. And I think that's kind of a one-off deal.
Well,
That's just what my thinking is. And we took action on this to make ourselves, the county, conform to state law. And I think what you're asking is you want us to go farther. Why don't you go to the state? And I think if Representative Griffey wants to sponsor, I'd be happy to do that. I'll be happy to work with you. I'll put my name on a bill. And if it goes through the process
then all the counties are affected, and we'll all be a mirror image of each other, because counties are subdivisions of the state. We are.
And I agree. If I can respond, or should I?
Quickly, please.
I'm sorry?
Quickly, please, it's usually.
Well, okay, I don't think this is a solution looking for a problem. I think this is a solution to prevent a problem in the future. And that's normally the way I operate. I don't chase problems, I try and get in front of them. So this is, we always think Mason County is different from other counties for a variety of reasons, geographically and otherwise. And I've seen legislation come down through this body and then be adjusted for Mason County. And you can't restrict it more, but you can massage it a little bit so it fits the county. I live here in this county. You're asking me to go to Olympia to change a law, which would happen next year, and which I will willingly do. But again, you're kind of addressing whether we're talking about the misuse of this. We're just talking about the courtesy of it. We're talking about engaging people in their own local business. When this county goes out to another county to do business, they're not doing their own private business, they're doing the people's business. And I'm one of those people. And I want, and if no other person in this county wants it, it doesn't make any difference to them. I personally want adequate notice so I can rearrange my schedule so I can get there.
If I might, Tom, if we have a meeting, if I'm a part of this county commission and we meet in another county, I will go to Bushy Lane, wherever you live. I will pick you up and you can ride with me and we'll go together.
Well, I
Believe
think,
me, I don't see.
I appreciate that. I think you might be missing the point just a bit.
I just don't think it's gonna happen, sir.
I'm sorry.
First, not to have debate back and forth. Did you have any comment?
Yeah, please. Tom, you know, I am always open to having this conversation. We've had a conversation a little bit about it before. I can see talking about the idea of, you know, the 17, but it still would say something at the end of it, or 7 days, not 15, but still say something at the end of it that said, except for if the emergency situation, as an emergency meeting. But here's the problem with even that. You're making an assumption when you're talking about how we're setting up our stuff now, that's by law. That's not. It's our choice that the way we set up, we give 15 days. That's not a law that says we have to do that when we're doing that. That's because that's what we do as policy for ourselves. And the same thing here, except you said except for a special meeting. The way this is set up, that is a special meeting. That's why it's set up that way by the legislature, to make sure that whatever is said or whatever occurs in that other county, if it's not done here, because remember, if it's done here, it can go on a regular agenda. If it occurs there, it must be done under the auspice of a special meeting and can only be done if it is with a joint interest and only what's on that agenda. You cannot go outside of it. The difference is that you don't, I understand that you don't trust that that's what we're going to do. I don't think that...
I did not say that, so
Okay.
I don't want to let that go.
No, okay, then I won't put it that way. I think that our policy, the way we're going to do anything, if this occurs, we're going to give a long notice as we always do. Because remember, even the choice that we do now is not by law. We're doing it because that's what we try to do for our citizens. Law says we can still do it within 24 hours. Most of it, we don't have to adjust for anything because it's with the state registrar. So we already can have a business. We can walk in here on Wednesday, anytime, and actually create a meeting, because with the state registrar, we're registered to have meetings between 9 and 5,
That's correct.
Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So without notice, without nothing, we can come in here and do that, but we don't. That's the choice we have.
I don't understand why you're fighting so vehemently to hold this when you have no intention of utilizing it. If it's on the books, and remember, as I made the comment before, you're not going to live and die in these seats. Other people will come. And this water will get muddied, or can get muddied. I'm trying to make sure that the intent is clear of this commission to not, I don't want to say abuse, but not misuse this. And if you're giving notice now, then there's really no difference. I'm just asking for you to put it in writing. But the legislation specifically calls special meetings, specifically joint meetings, and specifically regular meetings. Let's not clump those together. The only cross-reference to make is that the joint meeting will adhere to the special meetings notice. That's the only cross-reference they make, and the special meetings notice is 24 hours. So you have that option still open. Even if you make this 15 days, you can still exercise your special meeting within 24 hours. I'm just asking on the joint legislative meeting, you allow 15 days for people to...
Well, again, I'm not holding on to it so vehemently as you think. As I said, I'm willing to have that discussion. I don't think this is going to be the place for it because there's a process, as you know, you've been here longer than I have, that we go through a process and then two commissioners agree to have something put on the agenda, and that's how that goes. But I'm not holding on vehemently to it. I could entertain the idea of, like I said, of setting it up for a week just as a parameter, but allowing for emergency because that's what it may be. But that would be done in a different manner.
Tell me you're going to keep it alive, Commissioner. Tell me we'll have a briefing on it next week, because after that week you don't meet. Give me something to look forward to, but if you shut the door on me, then where do I go from here?
Give me half a second.
Okay.
Would you be willing to have a briefing on it? Would you be willing to have a briefing on it?
We had one.
Yes, I understand.
And I think what we're on the brink of doing, and we do this as a commission, our meetings turn into a stream of consciousness. They're not a business meeting. If you're going to have a county commission meeting like tonight, you have to have an agenda, you have to have conducted in a business-like way, and not make decisions that are properly made at another place. But if you want to have a briefing, go ahead. But I just think that the meetings deteriorate when subjects come up and then all of a sudden they become what you're asking for is an action item.
That's correct, but I've seen you put an action item on right here at the meeting. Okay,
I
okay.
think we're done with this conversation, so I really don't want to carry it on anymore.
Are you okay with
We have two
briefing?
people that are agreed to have a briefing.
We'll have a briefing on it.
Thank you.
Is anybody else that would like to address the commission?
Steve Bloomfield, 391 Southeast Delman Road, Shelton. First, I'd like to thank the young gentleman over here for what he's done. State Highway Department of Transportation does offer on their right-of-ways removal of trash at no cost to you. You can make contact with them. They'll get you the information to do that, or even sign contracts with you. Thank you. That's really important what you're doing, and it's very frustrating. My wife and I pick up the intersection of Camelchi, and while you're doing it, people will throw trash at you. So I don't know if it's blowing out of the back of pickups as much as it's abuse of the easygoing nature of the county. Another total different reason why I'm really here to speak is what I view maybe is a problem that could be solved with better communications amongst all elected officials in this county. Communication and cooperation. And I think that there's been a little bit of that. Recently, the Sheriff's Department's announcement of their at the security at the courthouse and the litter pickup. Now, I think there's a lot of expertise goes into some of that program that they have that's very important, stays with the Sheriff's Department. I think that that's very important not to break down a portion of the jail or portion of the court, sentencing processes, the public service that is required of that. We shouldn't go there. And I think part of the reason we go there is a lack of communication amongst all the departments. I think they're there, all the departments, and thank you for having a weekly meeting, because we don't have a weekly meeting with any other elected official. It's not available. It should be. Maybe not weekly, maybe monthly, maybe quarterly. All of these should come together and we should be able to face them and talk. I think maybe go a long way in solving some problems before that happened. We could get these problems like the Sheriff's Department's experiencing out to the public so they can understand and help solve the problems. Anyway, my 2 cents worth, and thank you. I really do appreciate the ability for the community to come here and talk and speak their mind and have the Respect Street to do that. And that's part of what we need with the other departments as well. Thank you.
I just wanted to share that last week we had a first of what we hope to have quarterly meetings of elected officials and department heads to be able to talk to each other about their challenges. And I agree that when we talk about it together, we can come up with solutions or, hey, I've got something that can help you, etc. And I agree, the communication is very key to that, and having an environment that is free enough to be able to have free communication back and forth as opposed to always on the agenda item that's there.
Absolutely. It's too late to solve the problem if it's already at an action level.
Absolutely. Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to address the commission? Thank you very much, everybody. Hearing none, we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the agenda as presented tonight.
Second?
It's moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Right.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Approval of the minutes.
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of the January 25th, 2016 briefing minutes and the February 9th, 2016 regular meeting minutes.
I'll second the motion.
Moved and seconded to approve the January 25th and February 9th regular, January 25th briefing minutes and February 9th regular meeting minutes as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carried. Take us to the next item. It's the approval of the action agenda. There are 4 items on the action agenda. The intent is to carry them all with one vote. We'll read through these items and then provide an opportunity for both the commission and the people here in the audience to ask any questions on any of the items or to ask that any of the items be removed for a separate vote and a separate testimony. So I would ask Commissioner Sheldon if you could read item 8.1 and 8.2 and Commissioner Netherland 8.3 and 8.4.
Madam Chair, 8.1, continued from February 16, 2016, approval to sign the letter of support for the Sweetwater Creek Water Wheel Park project as requested by the Hood Canal Salmon Enhancement Group. And 8.2, approval of the Veterans Assistance Fund applications for necessity items, $150, as recommended by the Veterans Service Office.
Madam Chair, 8.3, approval of the 2015 Oath of Inventory for Machinery and Equipment pursuant to RCW 36.32.210 and Mason County Code, Chapter 3.56. Item number 8.4, approval to voice no objection to a special occasion license application from North Mason Resources for an event to be held on February 27, 2016 at the Feller Community Center in Belfair, and for the chair to sign the related documents.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions on any of the items just read? Commissioners, do you have any questions? Then
I have some questions or comments about item 8.1.
I am going to request that be removed for a separate vote. So that would be saved. Is there any, so I will be asking that 8.1 be removed for a separate vote. Is there any other items that people would like to be removed for a separate vote? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that items 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4 on tonight's action agenda be approved.
I will second.
And moved and seconded to approve items 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4 on tonight's action agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carried. Item 8.5, continued from February 16, 2016, approval to sign the letter of support for the Sweetwater Creek Water Wheel Park project as requested by the Hood Canal Salmon Enhancement Group. We have a proponent and the director of the Salmon Enhancement Group here. Would the commission like to hear a presentation by him?
I have actually already heard it, but you were
We talked on the phone today.
So you're good.
Okay, Miss Harlow does had asked her to bring some copies of the conceptualization of the park for people to review.
Thank you.
This item was continued, thank you, because there was still a presentation being made to the owners of the property, the North Mesa School District, regarding the proposed use of this property. And the commission felt it prudent to hold off on a vote until that item had been at least presented to the property owners. Commissioner Sheldon also has a question around the zoning for that, and I'd be happy to answer what we had found.
Yeah, I had, thank you for the document. I hadn't seen this before, so it's a fairly large piece of property, I think. I'm not sure how many acres we have here, 5 or
The project would be taking place on about 4.5 acres.
about 4.5 acres. Okay. So I saw today a new letter that was drafted, so I came in and saw that. And here's just some of my thoughts, and I appreciate all the work that's gone into it. I think a letter that is written to whom it may concern is not as effective as a letter that's written to a particular entity, like to a funding agency, like Department of Fish and Wildlife or Resource Conservation Office. I think that's the abbreviation RCO. Is that right?
Recreation and conservation.
Yeah. I think a letter of support should be requested by the landowner, because the landowner is the one that has to have the project. I mean, they have to be behind the project, I think. So I would be, and a couple other items I have mentioned before, I would be somewhat reluctant to pledge my support as a county commissioner for a project if I was going to then review the project in some way for a land use decision. I think I would prejudice, people would think I had prejudiced my decision if I voiced my support and then was having a zoning decision or a land use change and did that subsequent to that. So I have a few differences with the wording, and I would prefer that it came from the landowner, the school district themselves. And lastly, I guess I'll say this, and because I'm not running again, it's okay to me to say anything, but it's very controversial with the Feller Trust. Okay, Feller Trust is very controversial. A lot of people in the community are interested in what's going to happen with that trust, what's going to happen with the land that the school board has. And I think if we're going to make those kinds of decisions, we should do it in a big tent where everyone is participating. So I'm reluctant to sign this letter as it's written for those reasons.
Thank you. I'm going to open up the floor for public testimony, as is customary on these. If you'd like to speak to item 8.1, please raise your hand and we'll recognize to come to the podium.
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Ken Van Buskirk. I live northeast 61 Davis Farm Road. My wife and I are all about trails and recreation, and we walked that property with the school superintendent about a month ago and noticed that there had been quite a bit of work done on the property already. I attended the school board meeting last week, and the school board doesn't allow the audience to ask questions. So I had to do a public records request of one of the items that Ms. Harlow presented to the school board. She said that there was 26 donors that donated $14,000, and it was spent on the survey, a 30% design on, and updated design, I guess. It was done on school district property, and I don't think they knew about it. So I asked that question. I haven't found out yet. I testified to the school board that evening after Ms. Harlow gave her briefing to them, and I briefly talked about the 2003 sub-area plan to them. And I personally feel that that sub-area plan needs to be updated. On the first page there, you'll see a committee that was made up of 27 people. One of them was Dan Hanafis, who worked for the Pacific Northwest Salmon Center. The other was Mark Flateau, who was the assistant superintendent at the school district, and he was the one that signed that original grant. So he served on that committee. On the second page, you'll see the zoning, and 3/4 of an acre is mixed use, that's correct. But 4¼ acres are R10, which is the most intense zoning that we have in Belfair. And I think the commission just approved some sort of a tax break for folks that want to develop on R10 property, if I remember correctly. You'll also notice that that's right where that parcel is right where the SR3 widening stops. So it's going to be a huge bottleneck right there, more so than it already is. And on the last page, those were specific park recommendations that the Sub-Area Planning Committee made back in 2003. And you'll notice that there were no parks recommended for that area. You've created a UGA committee for the comp plan update this year, and I would just ask that you let that committee look at that. And they recognize that we have some issues with the sub-area plan, and they want to address them. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to testify? Cindy?
So I just basically wanted to answer, or speak to your questions, Commissioner Sheldon. The Hood Canal Salmon Enhancement Group has been doing restoration work for 25 years now, and we work with landowners regularly, and they rarely write or request letters of support from or for any of the projects. It's usually the grant applicant or the project sponsor who writes those or who requests those letters, I'm sorry. So it's very rare for a landowner to request those letters. And then...
Can I just interrupt you then?
Sure.
So how can you do work on someone's property without some type
Right.
of agreement or letter of support?
Right, so what we do with RCO grants specifically is we initiate the process, and then we ask for the landowner to sign an acknowledgement form saying that they realize that we're applying for these funds and that they acknowledge that we can proceed with the grant round.
Have you done that for this project?
So with this project, we met with the school board last week, and we requested that they do a landowner acknowledgement form, and they have determined that they would like to ultimately find another owner for that parcel. So they're looking for other either state or local agencies that would be willing to take owner of that parcel, because they're not, going back to Feller, they don't really want to own another park because it's not in their mission to own parks. So they're looking for another landowner to take ownership of that parcel. So in that scenario, we would then seek a landowner acknowledgement form from that new landowner. So yeah, it's very common for landowners to not be involved in the grant process at all. And then also the school district acquired that parcel in 1997, and it was partially through a grant through the Department of Natural Resources, the Aquatic Lands Enhancement Account, and then also partially it was donated by the landowner. So it wasn't part of the Feller Trust or that issue at all related to Feller. It was a separate land acquisition.
So wasn't the purpose of that 1997 grant to create a park?
It was to increase the recreation opportunities in North Mason. So yes, in a roundabout way. So, yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mandy. Is there anybody else that would like to testify on this issue? And then I'll close the public testimony period and about commissioner deliberations. I did want to share that I have what had been in the meeting packet and what we had looked at originally is a different letter that I'm proposing that we sign. Commissioner Sheldon referred to it. In my discussions with the school superintendents and members of the school board, some members of the Salmon Enhancement Group, with Mindy herself, it became clear to me that what we're looking for is acknowledgement that there is some community discussion around this project. And then there is still some things to be done, such as finding potentially new ownership. Talk to the school board director regarding that very, or the school superintendent regarding that very issue. I redrafted our letter of support for the commission to consider that acknowledges it's still an iterative process. Because of the RCO grant cycle, it's kind of a 4-year cycle, so to speak. So it would take a long time. I just wanted to share, I think that the Belfair urban growth area needs urban parks. There may be a park plan here, but we'd have to start from scratch regarding getting ownership, landowner, all those things. We've got something that is right here and ready to at least try to get funding around. And for an urban growth area to thrive as a healthy, thriving community, it's got to have the housing as well as the parks, etc. I think this project is phenomenal, well thought out, and it may not look exactly like this by the time it's done. But I think we as the county commission need to acknowledge that we are in charge of the land use planning in Belfair, and we've got to make sure that we've got some park places made available to the growing community and the new members of that community, as well as the phenomenal support of the Belfair community in general. $200,000 worth of in-kind donation of supplies and materials and labor is phenomenal. So I think that this has a tremendous amount of support. And I think that this letter is drafted in a way that acknowledges the process that still has some work to be done. Any other discussion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I want to catch a few of the different items. One of the first ones I want to say above everything else, there was some comments on making decisions. So if we're not making any decisions for them, the only thing this is just a letter of recommendation or support, nothing more. We're not making any decisions or determining anything for them. They still have to go through whatever they have to go through to make it happen. And that's what it would be on every letter of support, no matter what you're doing. Our job isn't to make that happen. That's up to them to make that happen. I want to clarify to whom it may concern. I can understand your concern, but you have to do it that way because although they would be applying to RCO, they may also be applying to Department of Fish and Wildlife or some of the other entities. We don't want them coming back each and every time they want something, another letter of support for each one they're doing it. So that's why we wouldn't do it that way. As for Theller, this property, except for the fact that the school doesn't want to have another Theller on their hands, has absolutely nothing to do with Theller. This is a different parcel across the street. Schindleheim Properties was referred to. It was something that was bought specifically, as was explained, to expand the recreation use, of which the superintendent and others have believed that a trail system, park system fits within that. And I don't think there's any question of whether that. Well, there may be. I have talked to one community member that I think believes that there may be a conflict in what that grant says and whether or not it could be a park. I didn't see it when I looked at it. I talked to the superintendent of the high school or of the school district before I came in today, and she told me that I could say that she would like for us to approve this letter. And so I did specifically ask her. There was another comment about 3/4 of it is R10. We are already established that R10 can have parks in it, where mixed use does have a problem. And so with R10 being that, we've also talked as a commission about these parcels that are subdivided the way that they are. It may just be a mapping change, not truly a rezone or anything else, because we just had that happen. We had that discussion. But more than that, I also clarified this morning. I called Barbara Atkins and specifically asked a question in regards to whether it was quasi-judicial, because I understand your concern of being able to send out a recommendation to something happening and it comes up to us quasi-judicial, which means that we're supposed to be impartial, by the way, when we're dealing with that. This does not fall underneath that. The reason why it does not fall underneath it is because this would, if we were to ask for it to be put into the mixed-use zone, to put parks into it, that is done for everybody and everything, and that is not quasi-judicial. It's the opposite. It is straight legislative. So it was not anything that we'd have to worry about there, and that's according to our director. And one of the biggest parts that we want to bring up, I appreciate what happened years ago. I appreciate the parks plan, but all those things are just plans. They're just ideas. There's one thing that becomes necessary in order to make something happen, and that's the fact that somebody has to want to do it, and somebody has to want to pay for it. And unless we're paying for it, which I'm not agreeing to, I'm not agreeing to pay for it, I'm not agreeing to expend any money, that's not part of the question. Unless we're paying for it, then that question isn't part of this. So the fact that somebody wants to do it, it's legal, it's part of it, that's why we should throw our support towards it.
Well, I just have a couple questions. And I think the letter is fairly benign. But I guess I have a problem with the process. We talked about for half an hour when the meeting started about process. And I came in today, I got here at 5:45, so that was my first opportunity to see this letter. When was this letter on our website? Could people read this letter before this meeting?
No, this letter was drafted at 2 p.m. today.
And then Commissioner Netherland, you said you brought this letter to the superintendent?
No.
Oh, I thought you said
No,
you...
I talked to her.
You talked to her?
Yeah.
So
I saw the letter.
So that's my issue. If it was drafted at 2:45 and now we're at 7 o'clock, what opportunity did the public have to come and speak about this? Mr. Van Buskirk has been interested in this issue and he was here. But I think and I'd be happy to work with you to find language that I could support. But I think we're out of bounds on the process. I think there's a role to play for our Parks and Advisory Committee as well. We have a committee that's appointed by our county. So I won't be supporting this. I say it's a fairly benign letter, but I just think we ought to take a process more seriously and make sure the public is properly informed before we vote on something here.
So I wanted to share, I want to address that. So the purpose was to wait and see what the result was of the presentation to the board, giving us a short amount of time to be able to do all this, and then getting a report back and making sure you're talking to all these people. So it would be great in a perfect world to be able to have the 1 week, 2 weeks notice. The grant application needs to be in by March 2nd. And so I'm trying to, my purpose of wanting to vote for this tonight is to be able to help that process of getting a grant application in on time. And if our processes would mean precluding our involvement in supporting the grant application, then I think that's worth jumping over. And having a letter that was drafted that day. And I remember my first 3 weeks of this job, you asked me to sign a letter that you had just drafted that day as well. And I regretted that one, frankly, that signing that letter to the legislator. So it's not like we haven't done this before.
Fudge Point. That's when you're talking about. I just remember that.
Fudge Point.
Yeah.
I regretted signing that letter.
But, Madam Commissioner, I want to remind both of us, though, that the letter itself may have been changed, but that is a process that we do on a regular basis. We're changing stuff. The action item has been on the agenda 2 weeks, 2 different times, the idea of sending a support letter. So it's not like the citizens have not been fully informed out there on it. It's just on some of the words that we're choosing to use on it, which this is a lot more, as you said, benign than it was before. I want to share one other thing with you, though, with both of you, because I made a phone call today also, and I understand, and it's public, so it's a public meeting, so they're having a special meeting tomorrow at Port Allen to have discussions on that. So
on what?
on the property.
Oh, okay. So when you say on that,
Yeah,
I
but-
don't understand what they're...
But the main issue is, again, none of that is the only thing we're talking about is whether or not to support a park in Belfair, this particular park. I want a park in Belfair, especially a park like this. If anybody's ever seen it, this is incredible. It's got a handicap fishing pond and dock on it specifically for handicapped people. There's a lot that may still change, but there's a lot of wonderful things on it. So I support having a park in Belfair, especially if somebody else is paying for it.
Well,
I'm tight,
but
but I'm
I'm saying
saying-
it just seems to change. the information keeps dribbling in, so we don't have it all in front of us at one time to make a decision. Things seem to change. It's kind of like if the guy says, if you don't buy the car tonight, it won't be here in the morning. So I've never voted for something if that was the case. So I'm a reluctant no, and I'm sorry about that, but I'm trying to stay consistent. And for a politician, that's one of the hardest things there is in this world.
Madam Chair? Madam Chair, I move for the approval to sign the letter of support for the Sweetwater Creek Water Wheel Park project as requested by the Hood Canal Salmon Enhancement Group.
I'll second. We move the second to approve, sign the letter of support for the Sweetwater Creek Water Wheel Park project as requested by the Hood Canal Salmon Enhancement Group. Is there any more discussion?
Just one more thing. This is a hard one for me because I have a close personal friend on the other side of this one. But again, we have to do what we think is right for the community, regardless of how much it affects this person. And I have great respect for that person, by the way. Great respect.
And I can't stress enough how important it is that we get something moving for a park in downtown Belleville. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion carried. Thank you. There are no public hearings at this time, so that moves on to item number 10. We have a 10.1, other business. Lily Buchheit from our Department of Public Health has a press release to read.
Thank you.
What's that?
First case of Zika virus disease reported in Washington. A Mason County resident that had recently traveled to Tonga, a Polynesian sovereign state, has recently tested positive for the Zika virus, according to the Washington State Department of Health. People are being exposed to the virus by traveling to Zika virus-affected areas and being bitten by infected mosquitoes, according to Dr. Diana Yu, Mason County Public Health Officer. The good news is that the mosquito species known to transmit the disease do not live in the state of Washington, making it highly unlikely that the virus could spread here through a mosquito bite. Until more is known, the CDC recommends that women who are pregnant consider waiting to travel to any area where Zika virus transmission is ongoing. If you must travel to a Zika-affected area, there are several preventative measures listed on the Mason County Public Health website that can decrease your chances of being bitten by an infected mosquito. If you have traveled to a Zika virus-affected area and are concerned, please contact your healthcare provider. Quote, there have been reports of microcephaly, a rare birth defect in which a baby's head is much smaller than the heads of other children the same age and sex, generally related to underdevelopment of the brain, and other health problems in babies of mothers who were infected with the Zika virus while pregnant, explains Dr. Yu. The CDC reports outbreaks of the Zika virus have been reported in tropical Africa, Southeast Asia, the Pacific Islands, Brazil, and other countries and territories surrounding Brazil. The virus is known to cause fever, rash, joint pain, and red eyes. These symptoms are usually mild, lasting up to a week, but it is important to note that 80% of those infected may show no signs at all. If one does show symptoms, they usually occur within 2 to 7 days after being bitten by an infected mosquito. While those traveling to affected areas are those at risk for the virus, once infected, it is possible the virus can spread from a pregnant mother to her baby during pregnancy or around the time of birth. Other forms of transmission may be through blood transfusion and/or sexual contact with an infected person. For additional information regarding the Zika virus, please visit the Washington State Department of Health website at www.doh.wa.gov or the Center for Disease Control CDC website at www.cdc.gov. You may also contact the Mason County Public Health and Human Services at 360-427-9670 extension 400 or by visiting us online at www.healthymasoncounty.org.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any department heads here that would like to, I don't see any department heads, but I see Under Sheriff Barrett.
Good evening, Commission. Two things real quickly. On behalf, I was at the Bill Fair a Village Voice meeting last night, and a veterans representative, Harry, from the North Resource Center, is doing a fundraising for the North Mason and South Kitsap vets, and he asked to pass the information on. I think, Tom, he provided flyers to you, but it's Saturday, I believe the 19th, up in HD's. So we're asking any folks that would like to support the vets, get a hold and look at the flyer information. And the second information for the young gentleman here, I've already made contact with him, and I will have our litter crew supervisor work in trying to coordinate how we can assist on county lands, the litter pickup, while they're working their routes as well. So there'll be an exchange of information on that to try and assist what they're doing. So thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. One more time, what a great guy that you are for doing all that. You, yeah, what's his name, Kevin? Kevin? Yeah, you. What a special man you are to pick up such a big rock and start carrying it on your back for us. Thank you.
Are there any other items? Oh, calendars and the board reports from the board. This is where we share our calendars, where we've been, where we might be meeting together, or in the same meeting together for purposes of the Open Public Meetings Act. It's also an opportunity for us to share the boards that we represent the county on what might be going on. Who would like to start?
I'll be quick. Awful busy in Olympia last week and this week coming up too. We didn't have any meetings on here at the county on February 15th, which was President's Day. And then the county commission meeting, I was able to call in on by phone, and thank you for with us. We were actually on the floor, so there was a lot of juggling going on, and my office staff just did a great job helping out with that. One event I missed here in Mason County, maybe one of the commissioners went, but I heard it was a very good event. Was at the Shelton High School Mini Dome, the ROTC inspection and review that was held on Thursday, the 18th. I'm sorry I wasn't able to go. And talked to several people on the phone though about some DNR issues, Department of Natural Resources issues over in the TUI about a target practice, and several of the people over there contacted the DNR, and I think they've got another dialogue going about access that was supposedly established and then was cut off, but hopefully that's only temporary. The meeting we had, briefings we had yesterday, I was able to attend for until about 11, and this week will be in committee, and then next week will be on the floor. So hopefully this is the, I might have one more meeting where I'd have to call in if I can't be here in person. So looking forward to the end of the session, although my humble opinion, we with 147 legislators, 74 Democrats, and 73 Republicans, things might not be so quite so.
Thank you. Well, Commissioner Netherland.
Yeah. Can you go first? I'll finish
Okay, I
this.
think I have to go first. Following last week's meeting, we did have, the commission meeting, we did have, like I indicated earlier, first of all, I hope to be quarterly meetings of elected officials and department heads, just to share what's going on in our departments and how we might be able to work together on any issues, as well as we'll have a economic report, basically some of the indicators, trying to find some metrics that we can all agree on that would kind of indicate what's the economic health of the county, as well as the economic health, or the fiscal health of the county. The economic health of the county in general, fiscal health of the county government. Then we had a Mason Transit Authority board meeting that evening, and then we had a criminal justice working team February 17th, and then Mason Matters meeting, and conference call for Pac Mountain Workforce Development Council regarding an opportunity for some jail offender job readiness training, which unfortunately we won't have an opportunity to apply for some grant funding on that this time, but there's going to be some other opportunities, so I'm hoping we can have our folks together on that. Had a Lodging Tax Advisory Committee meeting, and there will be a recommendation from them to extend for another 2 years, potentially, the Visitor Information Center contracts as per the contracts we currently have, and then we'll be putting together a request for proposal to continue our professional tourism development marketing. We do have to go out for a competitive bid process on that one again. They decided that they would like to also make a recommendation to continue the festival promotion work to be done by whoever is awarded the contract to do the general tourism promotion, just for efficiencies and cost savings, as well as having our message be the same and consistent. Let's see, we had a meeting of the Behavioral Health Organization first in Mason County, where I found that we have $1.1 million that's allocated to Mason County specifically for a mobile response team, which would be an opportunity for first responders and law enforcement to be able to, when they run across a call or an issue where the issue is obviously more around substance abuse and use and or mental health issues, that they could call in the mobile response team, which would be a mental health professional and caseworker, to do basically on-site diagnosis and then take care of treatment and handling whatever the needs of this person is as an alternative to taking them to the emergency room and or our jail. Very exciting, and I think there's some other things to come, and I look forward to bringing you folks up to date on that, on what we'll end up doing, or how this behavioral health organization will end up serving Mason County in a positive manner. Attended the Economic Development Council luncheon. The speaker, one of the speakers, was Brian Baumlander from the Department of Commerce, speaking about $45 million over the last, I can't remember the time frame was, I think the last 5 years that has come to Mason County through Department of Commerce, and various grants and direct appropriations, and it was a good meeting, and we had business leaders kind of being able to weigh in on some of their workforce needs as well as part of the workforce development strategic planning of the Workforce Development Council. Met with staff of Public Works about some of the changes that might be happening there, at least the changing of the guard, since there will be a new, we did have the resignation of our Public Works Director. Had briefings over the weekend, or on Monday, and then had a very long meeting, a listening session of folks that have asked for reclassifications within their departments, for themselves or their directors. Met with some realtors today, and then tomorrow we will have, let's see, meeting with the Trust Director, we're meeting with the Director, or County Commissioner from Grace Harbor, talk about maybe some opportunities to save criminal justice costs by working together. And then have a humanity board meeting, a Mason Matters meeting, and then the Area Agency on Aging, and then we'll be taking a tour of the Kitsap Mental Health's Keller House, just to kind of see how that they're providing mental health services in Kitsap County. And then I'll be attending the Smoking Rose Casino night on Saturday to raise money for cystic fibrosis.
Okay. Elected officials and directors meeting. We attended together. I met with some business owners. We're having a hard time up there in North Mason with the road widening. Not for any fault of the state employees, because they've been great to work with. But that pond issue has turned out to be a bigger issue than anybody can imagine. It looks like they may not be able to use what they had designed, so they're going to have to redesign and everything because it literally floated away. And now they have to try and figure a way to get around that. And then Mason Transit Board meeting, Legislative Steering Committee for the Association of Counties. We had a reception. Then I had a Business Retention and Recruitment meeting with the EDC. We had our Canvassing Board meeting. I had Legislative Steering Committee Day in Olympia. A little pat on the back to Commissioner Senator Sheldon as my little local kids from North Mason went by, and it was beautiful to watch them. It's really neat because they go into a room, and Senator Sheldon actually met them in the room and greeted them, and believe me, it goes a long way. It makes them feel like $1 million when they get their senator to spend a few minutes with them. It really does. It just makes their day. So thank you for that, Commissioner. And then let's see, the Peninsula Regional Transportation Planning Organization meeting. Brian's going away party. I had a meeting with other business owners. another guy in regards to a Belfair water issue and paying for that. I'm sure you're in the loop on that too as well. We had our briefings, and then let's see, can't see what the last one is. Wait 1 minute here, folks. Looks like I think it's just another business owner trying to get together for some stuff. North Mason Chamber of Commerce lunch coming up this next week. Alliance of Healthy South Sound coming up this next week. I've got meetings with some realtors next week. Hood Canal Lodge, you may be there for that. Are you going to be there?
Where's that?
That's that Mason thing that you were invited to? Is that on your calendar?
Well, I was there last week.
Oh, it was last week?
Yeah.
Oh, but I have the wrong. Oh, that, Hood Canal Lodge, I'm sorry. That's Union City, you're right. Yeah. I'll be at the Hood Canal Lodge one. Shelton Cemetery meeting, that one's always fun. County Courthouse Security, citizen that has some issue with some neighbors. Legislative Standing Committee Conference, Salmon Center on Friday. I'm going to go see ABBA Mania. Aren't you all jealous? My wife wanted to go see it. I have tickets. And that brings us back for briefings. And then I want to take a second, if you don't mind, Madam Chair. We have a person in the room. You know, you are without a doubt a hero. We have another one in the room that is retiring or giving up the ghost out in North Mason. She's somebody that when she comes in the room, except for today, everybody knows she's there. And if you need somebody to raise money for you, you want her, because she'll go right to your face and drag it right out of you. Highly respected, matter of fact, 2-time in a row chamber member or Citizen of the Year, 2 times in a row. And she is retiring. She's leaving North Mason Resources. It's a great loss for our community, but she's going to do something wonderful. She's taking care of her family and her grandkids and stuff. She's an incredibly wonderful woman, strong, independent, intelligent, strong, somewhat aggressive, God bless her. And she is definitely going to be missed, and we are shortened because of her leaving. And I'd like for you to come up just for one moment, if you don't mind, Kat. Just come here for 1 minute. Because, you know, I don't usually do it this way, but the reason why I'm asking you to come up is I'd like everybody to please give her a round of applause, because she deserves it. Well, miss you, Kat.
Thank you. We're all expendable.
No.
Oh, yeah, we all get voted out and
Yeah.
brought back in, but thank you very much. It has been absolutely a phenomenal time helping North Mason Resources regain its everything. Its funding, its financing, and its reputation. And the work that we do up there really does help people. And it's, you know, easy to say, come on into Shelton and get those services, but some of these people just don't have the wherewithal. And it's really what we do is the humanity of helping these people that are unable to help themselves, whether it's education, generational poverty, homelessness. The veteran just in need of somebody to talk to. So thank you very much.
Well, I want to remind the public, because they may not remember, but when you came in, that was an organization that everybody was done with. They had already turned their back on it for many different reasons. I was one of them. I ended up kissing a pig's ass with you.
Well, as I remember,
I did. I'm
you
serious
got
about
the
that.
ear, I got the
Oh yeah, you're right.
pork
So-
butt, yeah.
But one of us kissed the no.
I do that for money.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you very much.
It was wonderful.
Is there anything else to come before this board?
Madam Chair, I move we adjourn.
We are adjourned.
Sorry, Kat. I know you had.
Somebody let me